Lockdown on the 7. The night we held the bridge. The hurricane sirens died over the 7-mile bridge, but the radio in my work truck said my name. Luis? Do not raise the span. And then another voice cut in from the water. Keys sector, this is boatswain's mate Aiden Price, small boat 45698. Whoever's on the bridge, don't move. I'm Luis Armenteros, and I count storms by bolts. That's not a metaphor. FDOT bridge maintenance logs actually measure lightning strikes on our spans. My beat runs marathon to Big Pine, which means the 7-mile bridge is the bone I live on. I'm the night tech who troubleshoots jammed Baskel gears, fried junction boxes, and tourists who think stop here on red is advice. Most nights it's gulls and glow and a wind that smells like someone fried salt. On hurricane days, the keys turn into a single nerve. You know the drill. Cone of uncertainty, spaghetti models like a toddler's art, evacuation orders with too many words. The locals shrug until Publix runs out of water and the air learns English curse words. Tourists point at palm trees, then at dashboards, and then at the only way out that isn't a boat. The old bridge like a scar and the new bridge like a boast. My job in a pinch is simple. Keep the span powered, keep it down, and keep it honest. I don't tell many people about the other reason I guard that steel like a secret. When I was 9, my mother and I came up in a skiff after George passed. The tide decided we were interesting. We slipped toward a piling like a bottle toward a bigger bottle. A Coast Guard boat nosed us off like it was kissing a child's head. The petty officer who threw us the line called me buddy and told me I had great hands. I have no idea what he looked like. I remember only the rope and the words and the way steel can be kind. This story begins with Hurricane Idalia's less famous cousin, Hector, a late-season storm that started ugly and did its best to stay that way. The county ordered mandatory evac south to north at dawn. By mid-afternoon, the line of cars northbound looked like someone had unspooled a rosary from Key West to Florida City. By evening, FHP started contraflow talk, which tells you how desperate we were. At 18:09, the bridge automation panel in my truck threw a tantrum, COM fault, which meant either a dirty sensor, a cooked relay, or salt deciding to unionize. I took the shoulder at the MM40 approach with flashers singing and stepped into heat that felt like a hand. The sky was pewter with a bad memory. The water below did that glassy thing that doesn't mean calm, it means plotting. I keyed the handheld. 7 ops from Bridge Tech 7. I'm at the Bascule house. Panel's blinking stupid. Copy Tech 7, dispatch said. Keep her down. Coast Guard has a medevac boat inbound from Bahia Honda. They'll pass under in 5. Then the other voice, stretched thin by chop and distance. Sector 45698. We've got a pediatric respiratory, 4 souls aboard. Requesting clearance to pass at center channel. We'll be on you in 6 minutes. And then a voice that made my spine stand up. Luis, do not raise the span. Repeat. Do not. Wasn't going to, I said, but the way my name sounded in a stranger's mouth made me alert in a way coffee can't. But the truly shocking part hadn't happened yet. I climbed into the Bascule house, which is a glorified steel closet with windows the ocean thinks are jokes. The control cabinet hummed like a drunk choir. I slotted my bypass key and checked the limit switches. They read happy. The relay ladder was another story. R4 chattered like teeth. I swapped it and reseated the PLC card with a prayer to Siemens and my grandmother. The COM fault light stayed on, smug. On channel 16, the small boat hailed again. Closer now, voice clearer. 45698, 1 mile south of 7, center span. Requesting traffic heads up. FDOT on 7, I said. Span is down and locked. You've got clearance! Copy, FDOT, he said. Then, without the formal cap on it, don't leave me, okay? You learn voices in this job. His had that trained quiet that says I've done this before, and the sea and I have a complicated marriage. Not going anywhere, I said, and meant both the bridge and the other thing. Wind pushed a sheet of rain across the deck, like a sentence that changed its mind. The northbound lanes kept crawling. Brake lights were a red thread aimed at safety. A kid in a back seat pressed his face to glass and looked up at me like I was a lighthouse. His mother mouthed thank you the way prayers get mouthed when they're half courtesy and half emergency. The radio coughed. 7 ops, FHP, a trooper said. We've got a tractor trailer straddling lanes north of your house. He's smoking. We may need to stop flow for 3 minutes. Negative, not ideal, dispatch answered. We have a med boat under in 2. Make it 1, the boatswain said, his voice closer, the thrum of twin diesels right under the words. FDOT, see me? I leaned over the rail and saw them slice the current like a scalpel. 45-foot response boat, gray and mean, blue strobes doing what strobes do, making fear visible and useful. The coxswain held the line like it owed him money. A man stood at the bow with a throw bag and a face like the keys drew it, sun-carved, intent, young in a way that knows what to do with itself. I see you, I said. You good on clearance? Green, he said. Hold me steady, 7. I'm the one made of concrete, I said, and he laughed inside the sentence, because sometimes the only way to say please is to pretend you're not saying it. They slid under. For a breath, the boat and the bridge and the traffic and the weather all agreed to behave. The kid in the back seat did a tiny wave at nothing and hit me in the sternum with it. The radio burred in my ear. FDOT, the boatswain said. This is Aiden. We're clear north. Thanks for sticking. We're headed to the ramp at Knight's Key. You free in 10 to talk me through the old bridge gate? It stuck on us last storm. Copy, I said before my brain could do the math. I'll meet you at the gate. Appreciate you, he said like a handshake. Wait, don't miss this detail. The old 7 Mile is a heartbreak with historic status. Its gates are supposed to keep pedestrians off when the wind wants to play bully. They also like to collect salt and pretend they were never designed by a person. I jogged the catwalk down to the service lane, moved the truck, and ran the short causeway to the gate. Wind, salt, the taste of copper the keys put on your tongue when they want you to respect them. The Coast Guard truck backed their trailer in short-handed ballet, and the boat kissed bunkers like it had manners. The bowman, Aiden, jumped the fender to the dock with the kind of economy that makes a body look inevitable. Up close, he was taller than his voice, darker-haired than his jacket suggested, and more careful than his speed. The life vest framed him like work that fits. He had a scar under his left eye that looked like a hyphen between two important thoughts. Luis, he said and learned my face. I'm Aiden. Thanks for the lock. Thanks for the save, I said, and then felt silly using a word that is both too big and too small. He offered his gloved hand and I took it. The glove was wet and warmer than the air. He nodded at the old bridge gate. She quit on me last Hermine. We had to drag a battery over and sweet-talk a stuck arm. Locals still post cursed memes about it. I popped the junction box. The breaker had tripped and refused to be reasoned with. I pulled the cover and found the culprit. A frog the size of a business card, deceased, having performed a high-voltage review of its life choices. I showed Aiden with 2 fingers, winced, and said he died doing what he loved, being damp. Aiden choked a laugh into the jacket collar and then looked guilty because a kid in a car seat somewhere had lungs that needed the other version of him. I swapped the breaker, brushed the crime scene into a baggie for morale, reset the arm, and hit the pendant. The gate rose like it had never heard of weather. You want bad coffee? He asked when we were done. I prefer terrible, I said. Good, he said. We keep ours 2 days past repentance. We took paper cups badged with a logo older than me and stood under the overhang while the storm rehearsed being a category. Up close, he smelled like diesel, salt, and a soap the boat's sink had seen too much of. Up close, he had a habit I would learn and love. When a siren or a horn sang, he angled one ear toward the world like he was giving it the microphone. You're local? He asked. Marathon, I said. Parents came Balsero in '94, made a life on the dry side of water. I grew up learning every boat they trusted. He nodded like that explained my hands. 6 years in Miami, 3 in the Keys. I like boats that can turn around without filing paperwork. Full send, I said. Half send, he corrected, smiling. I like my crew breathing. He glanced at my patch. You like bridges? I like what they do, I said. I like a thing that says stay and go at the same time and means both. I like that a kid can wave from a back seat and make a grown man feel like a beam. He looked at me with the kind of attention that's not romantic yet, but isn't not. The rain lifted long enough for us to hear the ocean's regular voice. He said, We're staging at Station Marathon until Hector makes up his mind. If the panel keeps acting like a teen, call me direct. 45698, ask for Aiden. Copy, I said, and when he left, the storm felt less tall. You haven't seen the biggest surprise yet. At 2040, the PLC on the new span threw a tantrum for real. No input spamming like a slot machine. So I took the catwalk again and found the limit arm on the west leaf had worked loose under vibration. It's threaded into a steel boss the size of my forearm, and occasionally decides it didn't sign up for Florida. I killed power, pinned the leaf, ratcheted the arm back into a place it could respect, and killed a minute staring at nothing, the kind of perfect gray where you can see God or your mistakes depending on tilt. The hurricane band touched the bridge like a warning and moved offshore. For 30 minutes, the world was a pause and a song with too much percussion. I sat on the steel like a person at a dock who forgot which boat is theirs. My phone buzzed with a text from a Florida City area code. Luis, do you have eyes on the bridge right now? I blinked. Who is this? I typed. Aiden replied with a photo taken from the small boat, my silhouette in the Baskel house window, the blue of the console making me look like a ghost. You looked like a lighthouse. Weird sentence, sorry. Are you okay? I typed I'm concrete and then backspace 3 times because men will hide from anything including good metaphors. I'm here, I wrote. Span's happy. Gates behaving. Good, he wrote. We're wheels up in 20 for a pull from Pigeon Key. A caretaker did an evac. He's fine, just stubborn. You'll see our pretty lights again. Don't raise the span. Wasn't going to, I wrote, and added a stupid emoji that looked like a traffic cone. Just when I thought the rhythm would hold, the song changed key. At 22:07, the wind decided to be personal. The contraflow ended in a clumsy ballet. FHP needed the southbound lane for emergency access. Northbound traffic compressed, tempers sharpened. A pickup with 2 kayaks strapped like bad hats cut onto the shoulder and tried to pass the world. He didn't make it. The rear kayak caught air, ripped its straps, and catapulted toward the old bridge pedestrian deck like a cartoon that went to college. I saw it happen too far away to fix. I keyed the mic. 7 ops, object airborne at old deck, north side. Possible pedestrian hazard. I'm moving. Copy, dispatch said. Any injuries? Unknown, I said, and sprinted like the boy who used to race lizards behind our duplex. The kayak hit the chain link, bounced, dropped onto the deck, and slid 20 feet like a puck. A teenage couple froze. The boy threw his arms wide in the universal hurricane of I meant well. The girl said a word you can't say on the radio, and then started laughing the way humans laugh when a god misses them on purpose. I reached them in 10 breaths. You okay? I asked. Yeah, the girl said, the laughter breaking into a cry without changing wavelength. I know, I said, and put a hand on the chain like offense can be apparent. Let's get you off the deck, okay? They nodded and moved with the discipline of people who learn quickly. I muscled the kayak to the side and anchored it with a cable lock we keep for misadventures. The boy said, I'm sorry, and I said, do better. And he said, yes, sir, like he meant it. My radio popped, 45698 to 7, on your starboard 200 yards, Aiden said, voice business now. I turned and saw their strobe come up under the new span. We've got our Pigeon Key friend. He has opinions. We love him anyway. I've got opinions too, I said, and got a snort for my comedy. They passed under. The caretaker waved like a king, middle finger stuck halfway in either defiance or arthritis. Aiden saluted him with all the gravity of a Navy ball, and the caretaker laughed and coughed and waved again. I felt like I'd been allowed to live in the photo of my city for a minute. I thought that would be the last time we'd see each other that night. I was gloriously wrong. At 23:30, Keys Emergency Management pushed a text blast. Bridge lockdown possible 0015-0030 for wind. That meant we could restrict vehicle flow to high-profile vehicles only, then to none if gusts exceeded thresholds. I hate lockdowns. They make the Keys remember they're made of islands. I did my anemometer checks and held the panel like a rosary. At 0006, a tone I'd only heard once before split the radio. Marine sinking. Coordinates off Bahia Honda, small craft taking on water, 3 persons, 1 a non-swimmer. That's a nightmare sentence even at noon on a lake. At night, with a storm explaining itself in paragraphs, it's the universe's way of asking if you meant any of your promises. 9-8, responding, Aiden said. ETA 10. He didn't say pray and he didn't say watch me. He said the thing you say when your body knows what it's for. 7 ops, dispatch said. We need blue, keep the span down. We'll have 2 small boats under. Copy, I said. And as his hull swung south, my chest did the ridiculous thing of becoming a room with a window and a chair and a light that chooses to stay on. Don't romanticize first responders, I tell the tourists. They're people. They get colds and call their moms and sometimes forget to eat. But sometimes the job puts a cape on their shoulders, and if you have a heart, it notices. I watched the AIS spec crawl toward bad news. Someone on the scanner said they had eyes on glint, maybe reflective tape, maybe a life vest. Someone else said, hold your light low, which is what you do when waves turn flashlights into mirrors. The wind ratcheted. A gull did the rude laugh they reserve for land mammals. Then, through the kind of rain that thinks it's a curtain call, the small boat's strobe winked twice. That's not code. That's someone telling someone else I see you in a language with no letters. I didn't know whether he was talking to the people in the water or to me. It didn't matter. It worked on both. Radio fragments. Contact, he's got me. Roll your body, sir. Good. Rope, rope. Ma'am, look at me. Not the wave. One more. Hold. Silence. Then Aiden, breathless and exact. 3 aboard. Returning. I put my forehead against the window of the bascule house and said the only prayer I own. Thank you. And now the night decided to ask for one more truth. At 0:22, the wind hit threshold. Lockdown. I keyed the controls. Gate arm down. Sign flash. Barrier lights on. Traffic shuddered to a stop like an animal refusing a fence. FHP got loud in the headset, putting people back in their lane. A man in a Mustang got loud with his mouth. I wanted to tell him that the Keys owe no one mercy and we're being generous tonight. But the radio swallows sermons. The small boat nosed north, slower now. Like a person who sprinted and is walking to make the heart behave. 45698 to 7, Aiden said. We're under in 2. You still with me? Still here, I said. Good, he said. Don't go anywhere. Where would I go? I said. You'd be shocked, he said. And his voice did the thing it does when he's smiling at a stupid memory he can't share on the record. They came under the bridge with 3 metallic blankets on 3 shivering lives. The non-swimmer had the 1,000-yard stare that says the ocean borrowed him and gave him back with late fees. Aiden touched his shoulder, 2 fingers, light as a punctuation mark. The man blinked, came back to the room and nodded. The boat hugged into the ramp. EMS grabbed the human burritos and did the practice ballet of making the world normal. Aiden jumped to the dock, took 3 steps toward the gatehouse, hesitated, and then came those last 2 like a man who'd made a decision he liked. You okay? He asked me. Which is indecent after you've saved 3 lives, but decent is a small word and the night had gotten larger. I'm fine, I said. You? Hungry, he said. And he grimaced. Sorry, I know that's a cliché. It's a biology, I said. I have contraband empanadas in the truck. You're kidding. I'm Cuban, I said, and he laughed with his whole head. We stood under the overhang of the gatehouse and ate food meant for saints. He took a bite and made a face like forgiveness. He said, my grandmother would fight yours for this recipe. She can have it, I said. As long as I get visitation rights. He chewed, thought, swallowed. Listen, he said, and the tone changed, a gear clicking into personal. I didn't mean to make you my lighthouse earlier. That sounded, I don't know, dramatic. It helps to know the person on the other end of the radio is a person. Sometimes we talk to rooms. I talk to rooms for a living, I said, nodding at the concrete. The good ones talk back. He angled his face into the wind, letting the spray find the scar under his eye. We're going to stage near Knight's Key until lockdown lifts. If you need me, text. If you don't, text anyway. I will, I said, and this time the promise picked its own size. I thought the night had given all its surprises. It was saving one more. At 0110, the lockdown eased to a high-profile restriction. The troopers bled a convoy across. Ambulances, utilities, the vehicles that fix other vehicles. The Mustang man apologized to nobody. The bridge remembered how to be a sentence again, go with commas and pauses and a clause that says only if. I walked the deck to check. Shear pins and hinge grease because the body relaxes better when it is doing something a wrench understands. Wind pushed my jacket into the shape of a person I barely am. Below, the ramp lights turned everyone into a movie with a cheap filter. A kid with a Polaroid camera, God bless analog, took a picture of his girlfriend with the blue strobes behind her. He kept shaking the print like that would teach chemistry to hurry. He didn't notice that in the far corner of the frame, under the gate arm, 2 figures were caught like punctuation at the end of a messy sentence. A man in a yellow jacket and a man in a black hoodie. Foreheads almost touching. Not a kiss, not a briefing. Something that happens in between. I only saw it later, because right then, the panel in the bascule house barked, Gen loss, which meant our primary power had hiccuped. Feed from mainland went rude, and the bridge had switched to back up without asking permission, which it is allowed to do and I am allowed to dislike. 7 ops, I said, running. We're on generator. I've got to baby the load. Copy, dispatch said. Keep it under. Running on gensets is like cooking on a camp stove. Functional, messy, louder than you want. I throttled non-essential loads and watched the amps like a hawk with a spreadsheet. The wind flirted with threshold again, and then fell back like it had noticed the time. My phone buzzed. Aiden. We just saw the arm drop and the lights hiccup. You all right? I sent him a photo of the panel with my thumb on the ACK key and the generator humming behind the glass like a grandmother. Fine, I wrote. We're on mojito instead of espresso. God help you, he wrote. We have stale Oreos trade? I typed. Always, he said. And then the quiet, that feral keys quiet that happens between bands, descended like a visitor who knows you have one spare room. The bridge hummed. The ocean rehearsed. The tourists inched. The locals swore with love. The lights found their manners. At 0202, my phone pinged with a DM from a handle I didn't recognize. Saltwater lenses. We shot a long exposure on the old bridge in the storm. Didn't notice this until we got home. If it's not okay, we'll delete. Attached, a photo. Blue strobes make lines on long exposures. Headlights smear into ribbons. In the frame, the gate arm is a diagonal like a teacher's ruler. The bridge deck is a river of white. The water is black with silver freckles. In the left third, two small figures under the overhang, yellow and black, lean foreheads together. The caption read, "We thought this was a rescue romance." Then we realized it was just a moment, small, honest enough. My ribs did the thing again. My hands did the other thing, the one where you want to be braver than a picture. I texted Aiden. "We've been framed by art. Do we look fat?" He wrote. "We look like the only true thing in a bad weather report," I wrote, and then wanted to snatch the words back because I had been too honest on a night full of sign-in sheets and chain laws. "Good," he wrote after a pause long enough to be a decision. "I prefer true over pretty." We weren't done paying attention. The keys demand one last oath. At 030, Hector jogged north, rudely. The keys exhaled. The county radio started the after ritual. Road checks, transformer gossip, hospital status, a list of palm trees that chose flight. The bridge came off generator like a diva whose mic works again. I pulled the panel back to primary, stroked the PLC, and logged the longest night of the season in print because paper forgives. Aiden rolled up in the USCG pickup with his crew half asleep and wholly wired. He handed me a sleeve of stale Oreos. I handed him the last empanada like a sacrament. He nodded toward the bascule house stairs. "Walk?" he asked. We climbed into a sky that thought about stars and agreed to show some. The keys after a storm are a person washing their face at the sink. Everything is recognizable and a little new. He stood at the window where my forehead had prayed and looked down at the ocean like a doctor after a surgery that went well enough. He said, "When we took the pigeon key guy off, he grabbed my wrist and said, 'I thought the bridge would leave.'" "Bridges don't leave," I said. "Automatic. People do," he said, not unkindly. "We were quiet because quiet is a food." Then he said, "I like your hands, the way they touch a panel like it has feelings." "It does," I said. "So do you." He smiled in the window and it made two of him. "If you panic," he said. "Not don't, not stop, tell me." "I already did," I said. "Me too," he said. "We didn't do a movie kiss." We did something smaller and harder. We touched foreheads, which is the keys version of a promise you can keep in salt air. He smelled like diesel and soap and storm. A gull laughed. A truck honked. The ocean said again. By noon, the county posted a lessons learned clip, muted drone footage of the night edited between PSAs and maps. Caption: "Stay off the bridges during lockdown. Trust the pros. This is what they hold for you." At 0022 timestamp, the drone's eye holds on the gatehouse door while the arm drops. In the corner, tiny, unplanned, unavoidable, two heads angle together for a count of one Mississippi. You could call it a briefing. You could call it a prayer. You could call it two men deciding to be visible for the length of a breath. Comments went the way comments do. A grandmother posted 3 blue hearts. A man with a boat avatar said, "Hell yeah, semper paratus." A teen wrote, "Lowell my kayak," and got roasted with mercy. The county left the clip up. No headline, no arrow. Just a small truth inside a big one. I texted Aiden the link. "You okay with public small truths?" I asked. He took 40 seconds to be the person I already knew. "Yes," he wrote. "Small, honest, enough." That evening, when the sun came back with its apology, we stood on the bridge and counted bolts for the log and boats for fun and promises because the keys require witnesses. He said, "Hungry?" Because he always is. I said, "Always because I'm alive." We walked back to the truck with the panel humming and the ocean pretending to be ordinary. I checked the sky like an old man. He checked the water like a young one. Between us, a piece of Florida kept being bridge enough for both. Sometimes the safest place is not a house with shutters. Sometimes it's a span that refuses to be elegant or honest about how heavy it is. Sometimes it's a voice on 16 that says don't leave and means I won't. Sometimes it's a forehead against a window and another against yours. The storm will always audition. We will always cast the light. "I'm here," I said. "Me too," he said, and the 7 held.